Hey guys, how are you? It's Miss Christine. I'm sorry I haven't seen you guys in a little bit. Life just sort of got really hectic there for a little bit, and some stuff sort of got in the way. But I'm glad to finally reconnect with you guys. I hope that you had a good Thanksgiving and that you're enjoying getting ready for Christmas. I painted a candle this week, and so I wanted to share that with you. I guess I just thought it was kind of fun. I'm still kind of dreaming of snow, hoping that with some winter snow we'll finally get here, and I thought this would be a nice little project for us. So you're going to need your pencil, a sharpie or micron pen, eraser, and also I did mine in watercolor. So if you want to do that, get your watercolor supplies and also a white crayon or oil pastel. Okay, now if you want to do yours in a different media, you can completely do that. But the instructions that I did are in watercolor. So if you want to do yours like mine, go ahead and get those supplies. Okay, and I'll see you back in just a couple minutes, all right? Okay, thanks guys. Okay guys, so let's start on this candle. The very first thing that we're going to do is actually just draw the candle itself. We're going to have the top be about halfway in the middle here. I'm actually going to start with the left side of my candle, and I'm going to bring it down to maybe 2 inches from the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Okay, and then I'm going to make an oval at the top. And this same shape that I have right here, I'm going to make right here as well. Okay, then I'm going to make another oval down here. Okay, and that's going to be like a little, I don't know, like a little holder or something that the candle is sitting on. And then I'm going to put 2 little sides on it and do kind of a front edge that's going to be the same shape as the line right above it. Okay. Okay, I have one sad kitten that wants to go outside, so just ignore him. It's Mr. Harry. Okay, so from here, we're going to put our wick in the center of our candle. That's the part that we light on fire. So I'm going to have a little wick right there. And then for my candle, or for the flame of my candle, it's going to look a little bit like a teardrop. It's going to start at a point and then kind of go down to a round bottom and then kind of back up again. Okay. Now, because this candle has been burning for a little while, we're going to have some wax melting down on the sides, kind of like dripping. And so we have this nice perfect oval that we just made, which is our base. But now I want to go in and change it just a little bit. So this back line, I'm going to make it a little wiggly. Okay, because the parts that kind of dip down can be where like wax has dripped off already maybe. Okay, and then on the side, I'm going to have a big gob of wax. Just kind of coming like that, like a little drip. And I'm going to erase this line right there. Basically so that I can add like the side of the drip like that. And then I'm just going to come around, and I can go all the way up to this line if I want to. But generally speaking, my lines are going to go either just to it or just below it. And I'm going to just kind of keep on making these little drips that kind of come down, and some can be longer and some can be shorter, but they're just kind of like wiggly little lines that go down to a point. Okay, and then on this side here, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other side. So I'm going to bring this here, and then I'm just going to bump this out a little bit on the side like that. All right, so that's our candle. Our next thing that we need to do is our window. So this is like on a little ledge in front of the window. The window itself is going to start right here. We're just going to make a perfectly straight horizontal line. Okay. And then I think probably the easiest way to do this next step is to make a straight line, but make it really light because we are going to erase a little bit. So let's do another line right here, maybe like an inch or so above our other line, and it's going to be parallel, which means that it's going to be the same distance all the way across. So the two lines are going to have the same distance from top to bottom the whole way across. Okay. Now what we're going to do, let me show you my picture here. I got my picture right here. So what we just did was this line here and this line right here. So let me see. At this point, maybe we should do just one more line, which would be this one. And then we'll do our lines that go up like that, okay? So let's come back down here. Now this time, again, do this lightly because we're gonna erase some of it. We're gonna have a line that's just a little bit, maybe like 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch above our other line, and have it go all the way across. Okay. Okay, so now we have our 3 window panes. I'm going to pick a spot that's, so here's my candle. I'm going to go up and pick a spot a little bit over to the left, maybe about right here. And I'm going to make a line from this second line and go straight up. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to try to make it the same distance about, so maybe like right here. And I'm going to go straight up. And again, that's from the second line, not the first, or not the top line, I should say. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a diagonal line from this point, and we're going to go at an angle like that. And from this point, we're going to go up at an angle like that. And that's going to be like the little, I'm going to call it the lip of the window, of the actual window pane. And then from both of these points, we're also going to make lines that go straight up. Okay. And then we are going to erase this little line, this horizontal line from our first line that goes across here. We're going to erase that from inside of this new shape that we just drew here. So let's see, right down here, like that. Okay. Okay, so now we have this vertical line. We're going to do one more vertical line next to it, maybe 1/2 an inch away. And go straight up. And the same thing over here. Okay. And now on these, we're gonna erase this line as well, that first line. Actually, we're gonna erase both the first line and the second line. There. And now we have our 3 window panes. So this part here is wood, that, and this part, and this part, and this little ledge right here, that's all part of our wood. And then this part here is the actual glass that looks outside, okay? So guys, that is really basically our drawing. What I want to do now is get either a white crayon or a white oil pastel, and we're gonna make little snowflakes outside of our window, okay? So just like an X and then a line that goes through our X. It is white, so it is really hard for me to show you. Actually, not too hard. There we go. So I'm just gonna make some random snowflakes, and then I'm gonna also just make some dots. So my bigger ones are gonna be the X with the line through it. And then I'm also gonna just do some random circles. Don't make your, if you do circles for your snowflakes, don't make them too small. Otherwise, they might not show up after we put the watercolor over top. Okay, then one other thing that I want to do is I want to put just a little bit of like a line or an oval right smack in the middle of my little flame right here. Hold on. Actually, just thought of one other thing I want to do. I also want to erase this line right here. I want to kind of keep in mind where that line is, but I want to erase it, and then I want to draw where it was with my oil pastel so that I can have a highlight sort of along that ridge. See if you can see that, kind of like that. Okay, so that is it for our pencil drawing. What I'm going to do now is get my Sharpie or micron pen, and I am going to ink over top of the entire window, so all of my pencil lines that made the window, and all of my pencil lines that made the candle holder, and then this part right here. Actually, you could also do the wick, but don't do the flame or this wax here, okay? So leave the flame and the wax alone, and everything else go ahead and ink in, and I will post a picture of mine right after I stop recording here, okay? So go ahead and pause this and go ahead and ink that in, and then get your watercolor supplies and also your Epsom salts, and then come on back, okay? All right. Okay, guys, so as you can see, I inked in with my micron pen my windows and my candle and my base. I also, I erased the lines that I inked over, and I erased somewhat the lines around the edge of my candle and also around my flame. I still want to be able to tell where the edges are, but I just don't want it to be too dark. So I'll leave that up to you, how you handle that. but I chose to erase mine somewhat, so I could still just see a little bit. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and color this in. Now, guys, if you want to watch how I do this, feel free. But if you want to do your own thing, that's perfectly fine too. In fact, you don't even necessarily need to use watercolor, but that's what I did on my sample, so I'm going to show you how. But again, if you would rather use, you know, colored pencils or markers or any of the other media that we've used, feel free to do that, okay? But I'm going to start with mine. So I have my little candle going. I'm going to start with my lighter colors. So I'm going to start with this kind of like warm yellowy orange color. I'm going to put lots of water in it. And I'm just going to go kind of around my flame, around the edges of my flame. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my candle wax. So I'm going to kind of paint inside those lines that we were just talking about. Okay. I'm just trying to remove now a little bit of the color from the areas that I want to be a little bit lighter up here in the front. Also maybe around the center here. I'm just going to grab a tiny little bit of my paper towel and blot some of that color off. Okay. Now I'm going to, I think I'm going to get into some of this orange, some of this, let's use this. Let's use some regular orange. And I'm going to put that in here for the rest of the candle. And guys, you know, the way that I paint and color is that I use lots and lots of different colors. So I'm not going to do, I think, the whole thing with you guys, but I'll show you the basics. And then if you want to do more, you can kind of study the picture that I've done and follow my example for other colors that you can add, shadow colors and highlight colors. Well, actually, my highlights, I guess, are doing. I guess it's mostly the shadows. I have lots of like purples and dark purples and kind of magenta that I use for shadow colors, just to make it pop a little bit more. Anyway, I'm going to first color this whole thing in with my orange. And then I'm also going to put some of this yellow and orange around my flame out here. So I'm going to start actually with my yellow, and I'm just not going to bring it quite up to my flame so that I can have some separation. Okay, and then I'm going to put some of my orange outside of that and kind of let it blend into it. something like that. Okay, and now I'm also going to put a little bit of yellow, darker yellow, along this edge right here. And just sort of up like that. I'm going to put some orange down here. In fact, I might put some of this darker. I have a reddish orange up here. I might use some of that and make this a little bit darker. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of let that sit for a little bit. I'm going to go into my sky now and do my blues and my purples. I'm going to start by putting water in this center section, up along the top and around my flame. I'm going to try to be careful though, not to touch the window ledge if I can help it. I'm going to try to not touch that. It's okay to touch this edge of our glow from our flame, but I'm going to try not to touch the actual, oops, I touched a tiny bit there. Try not to touch the window and try not to touch the actual candle. Okay, and then we can go in with some purple. I'm going to pick a dark purple and put that on over top of here. You know, part of the trick of watercolor is making sure that your paint is the right consistency, that it's not too dry and not too wet. For this part right here, we do want it to be wet. And really, I don't know if you can get too wet or not, but we definitely do want our water to be wet because we want the colors to blend into each other or bleed into each other. But with that said, we also need to be very careful about where that water goes, because as soon as you go outside of your edges, you know, it's going to bleed into places that you don't want it to. Okay. Now that I have that down, I'm going to go back over with a little bit more of this orange and put it around this edge where it kind of blends in with the purple. Okay. This is a little bit more of that yellowy color, the kind of yellowy orange. And I'm just going to kind of have this fade from light to dark. And you can put in little hints of other colors here and there if you want to. Maybe I want to put in just a little bit more of this dark orange because that bled a lot. So maybe just around the edges, I'll put a little bit more of that. In parts, maybe even just a smidge of red, like in a couple places, just to help darken it some. And it'll soften as it dries. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my sky. I want to put either a little bit of blue or like I have this one color here that's kind of like a blue-black. either one of those I want to put over top of the outer edge of this here purple. I don't want to put it too close to my glow, but maybe just down in this bottom corner a little bit. Same thing over here. Okay, we can let that dry a little bit. Now something that you can do, I'm not quite sure why my oil pastel isn't resisting as much as it should, but you can go over top of that with just a clean brush and some water and get some of that color off of there. You could also probably blot it with a paper towel. That might be the problem, it just might be too wet. So I'm going to try to just push some of that color off, and then I'm going to go over it with my paper towel. Okay. So I'm just going to roll this like in a little ball. And just kind of go over top real quickly of some of this. Maybe I want to put a little bit of blue in there after all, just a tiny bit. While I'm playing around, I like playing around with different colors. Maybe a little bit of blue. I think that's fine. Okay, and now is also a good time to put our Epsom salts down. Okay, so I have my Epsom salts, and I just took a handful, and I'm going to sprinkle it mostly around this outer edge right here. It can be in the glow as well, but mostly in the outer part is where I want it. See, yeah, something like that, I guess. Maybe a tiny bit more. Okay, and then we'll let that dry. You know, even after you do that, if you want to, you can still add little bits of color, like little dots. Or you can add little bits of water and just throw a little bit of that around to try to get the colors to blend a little bit more. Like right now, I just put my brush in my water, and now I can just kind of like tap on some of these spots. You know, if they're not blending on their own, just kind of see what they do if you add some water to it. Okay, so that's it for that. Now let's go do our other two windows. And we're going to do basically the same thing that we did for the sky in these two windows. We're just not going to have the glow. So we're going to start out with our water. And I'm going to throw in some dark purple. Try to get it even throughout the space. Okay, and then after that, you can throw on, I don't know, little bits of blue. And just kind of let it do its thing. And then also some little bits, if you want to, of like a black or You know, it really does look black. This color is kind of a blackish blue, but it really does look black. Maybe you just put that along the edge. But you can also put dots of it kind of throughout. And then maybe just some water. A little bit of water spread around. To help it blend a little better. Okay, and then I'll put some Epsom salts on that. I really like how that looks. I'm gonna throw some Epsom salts in there. Then I'll do this last section over here. Actually, guys, I'm not going to film this section because it's exactly the same as what we just did. Okay, some purple, some blue, some black, maybe a little bit of water if it's not quite blending as much as you want. And then throw some Epsom salts on it, okay? Then when you're done with that, we'll start up again. Okay, guys, so I am done with my window. And I want to do a little bit more detail now on my candle, on my flame. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this darker orange that I have, and I'm going to just sort of go around the edge of this flame. Just kind of wiggle your brush back and forth a little bit. Okay, and then we can kind of just wet the inside part so that this kind of blends in a little bit. And I will probably go back and revisit that a few times. Maybe even throw in like a little bit of, just like a tiny bit of red, like I'm putting some red right on the tip of my brush and just kind of wiggling, just using the very, I don't know if you can see, I'm just using the very tip of my brush and just wiggling some of this in around the edge. Okay, I'm going to do the same kind of technique in the very center of my candle. I'm going to add a little bit of like this orange in the very center. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. And then use a tiny bit of the red and just make a few spots with the red in it. Okay, now the actual candle. I'm going to add some purple on the bottom. And we're just going to kind of go and try and bring that up a little bit. We can add a little bit of water at the top to try to make it blend a little bit better. Basically something like that. We can also put a little bit of that down here on this thing around the bottom. Like a little shadow. Okay, I'm going to add some water to this now so that line doesn't end up too hard. And we can also bring in some of this darker orange now too. So I'm going to bring in some darker orange and maybe a little bit less water than I had before. Like you still want it to be wet, but just not soupy wet. Okay, and carry it down into the purple. I'm going to bring a little bit of that purple out down here, but I'm going to make it a lot waterier because this is just like a little bit of a shadow. Maybe I want to bring some orange in here. You know, I think basically the rest of this painting is a mixture of oranges and purples. Maybe a little bit of yellow, maybe a little bit of blue. This is basically our color scheme. We have these warm colors being cast off by our candle. But then we also have cool kind of nighttime shades mixed in a little bit too. Now up here where our wax is dripping, I want to do a little bit of what we did before with that red. Do a little bit. This is kind of dry, actually. I'm not using a lot of water on this. And again, I'm just using the very tip, and I'm going to outline kind of like the edge of where our wax is dripping. Okay, and then we can still, kind of work up into that, or put some water around it to soften the edge. Maybe a little bit of this yellow too would be fun, just to kind of warm it up a little bit. After that, we're just going to keep on layering. I'm going to put a layer of orange down on the windows and on the little ledge. And of course I still have Epsom salts everywhere. Last time I did this differently. I did the window first, or the window ledge first, and then the window glass, and maybe that would have been better. I don't really want all this salt everywhere. So I'm just going to brush this out a little bit. If yours is dry, you could go take it to the trash can and brush that off altogether. Mine's not dry yet, though. I'm going to continue with my orange. It doesn't have to be dark, but I'm just going to put some orange around basically this whole bottom section. And now I'm going to go in with my blacks and my blues and my purples. And I'm just going to kind of fade them in. If you have a larger brush, you could use a larger brush for this section. I should have one on me, but I don't right this second. Just no matter what you do, water out this edge, okay? Doesn't matter what colors you put in. Just don't put them too close to the candle, and make sure that you put water on the edge so that it blends. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my purple. There's some purple on there. And remember, guys, not to press too hard with your brush, okay? We're really just sort of using the tip of our brush. We never want the metal part that holds the bristles to touch the paper, okay? Guys, that is basically it. You can go in and throw in some more colors if you want. You can throw in some blues in here. You could throw in more darks on the candle if you wanted to. But that is basically it. Okay, when your painting is dry, you can brush off your what do they call it? The Epsom salts. You can brush off the Epsom salt into the trash. Okay, I'm still working. I'm sorry, I always do this. It's just kind of like going back and forth, trying to find the perfect combination of colors. So I do a little bit of blue, then I'm like, oh, I need to do a little bit more orange. But anyway, you work until you're happy with yours. And if you're happy with it, that's all that really matters. Okay, so I'm going to keep on working a tiny bit more, and then I'll post a picture for you. Okay, but this is what I've got for now. I hope that you guys enjoyed working on this, and I will be in touch real soon with another video for you, okay? All right, you guys take care. Good night.